The morning of January 14, 2003, dawned cold and unforgiving over Meadowbrook, Virginia. Snow had fallen throughout the night, blanketing the small town in a deceptive quiet that made everything look peaceful, almost sacred. By 7 in the morning, the thermometer outside Miller's hardware store read 18 degrees Fahrenheit. Claire Rogers stood at her kitchen window, watching her daughter Emily bundle up for school. The 9-year-old struggled with her purple winter coat, the one with the fake fur trim that she'd begged for at Christmas. "Mom, can you help me with this zipper?" Emily called out, her cheeks already flushed from the warmth of the house. Claire walked over, kneeling to fix the stuck zipper. "There you go, sweetheart. You have your lunch?" "Yes, ma'am." Emily held up her pink lunchbox decorated with cartoon characters. "And I finished my math homework last night, I promise." Claire smiled, brushing a strand of brown hair from her daughter's forehead. "I know you did. I checked it, remember?" She kissed Emily's forehead. "Now you walk straight to school. Don't talk to strangers and don't take any shortcuts through the woods." "I know, Mom. You tell me every single day." Emily rolled her eyes with the dramatic flair only a 9-year-old could muster. "And I'll tell you every day until you're 30. Claire replied, trying to keep her tone light even as something inexplicable tugged at her chest. She'd felt off all morning. A mother's instinct, perhaps, but she pushed it aside. "I love you, baby." "Love you too, Mom." Emily grabbed her backpack, the purple one with her name embroidered on the front pocket, and headed toward the door. Claire watched from the window as her daughter trudged down their snow-covered driveway onto Maple Street. Emily turned once to wave, her small figure nearly swallowed by the oversized coat. Claire waved back, that uneasy feeling growing stronger. She watched until Emily turned the corner toward Patterson Elementary School, then forced herself back to her morning coffee. That was the last time Claire Rogers saw her daughter for 18 years. By 10 o'clock that morning, the school secretary, Mrs. Patterson, made her routine attendance calls. Emily Rogers hadn't shown up for homeroom. The secretary tried the Rogers home number twice. Claire answered on the second call, confused. "What do you mean she's not there? I watched her leave this morning at 7:15. "Mrs. Rogers, Emily never arrived. We've checked all the classrooms." Claire's coffee mug slipped from her hand, shattering on the kitchen floor. She didn't remember grabbing her keys or running to her car. The drive to the school took 3 minutes, but it felt like hours. Principal Henderson met her at the entrance, his face grave. "We've already called the police, Claire. They're on their way." The next hours dissolved into a nightmare of flashing lights, questions, and growing panic. Sheriff Tom Brennan arrived with 2 deputies. He was a thick-set man in his 50s who'd known the Rogers family for years. His usually jovial face was tight with concern. "Claire, I need you to walk me through this morning. Every detail, no matter how small." She recounted everything: the stuck zipper, the packed lunch, the wave goodbye. Her voice trembled. She was wearing her purple coat, blue jeans, and those white sneakers with the pink stripes. Her backpack was purple too, with her name on it. By noon, a search party had formed. Neighbors, church members, volunteer firefighters. Nearly 100 people spread out across Meadowbrook, calling Emily's name. The temperature dropped further as afternoon approached. Deputy Marcus Webb found the backpack at 1:45 in the afternoon. It was lying in fresh snow on the shoulder of Route 29, about half a mile from Emily's house. The location made no sense. Route 29 was completely off the path to Patterson Elementary. Sheriff Brennan stood over the backpack, his breath forming clouds in the frigid air. Marcus carefully photographed it from multiple angles before picking it up. The pink lunchbox was still inside, along with Emily's homework folder and a library book about horses. "There are footprints," Marcus said, pointing. "Small ones, child-sized." The footprints led from the road's edge toward the backpack, then back toward the pavement. But there, at the very edge of the asphalt, they simply stopped. Not faded, not obscured. They ended as if Emily had vanished into thin air. The only other marks in the snow were tire tracks, partially covered by new snowfall. "Get casts of everything," Brennan ordered. "Footprints, tire tracks, everything. And get forensics from Richmond down here now." Word spread through Meadowbrook like wildfire. By evening, news vans from Richmond and even Washington, D.C. had arrived. The missing poster went up everywhere. Emily Rogers, age 9, last seen wearing a purple winter coat. The haunting school photo showed a girl with brown hair, hazel eyes, and a gap-toothed smile. Claire sat in her living room surrounded by family and friends who spoke in hushed tones. She stared at the telephone, willing it to ring with good news. Her husband, David, had been dead for 2 years. a heart attack at 41. Now Emily was gone too. Sheriff Brennan visited that evening, his face drawn. "Claire, I need to ask you some difficult questions. Has anyone shown unusual interest in Emily? Any strangers hanging around?" "No, nothing like that. Everyone in Meadowbrook knows everyone." "What about David's friends? Anyone from his past who might—" "Tom, stop." Claire's voice broke. "David was a good man. His friends are good people. Someone took my baby. Someone took her right off the street in broad daylight." The investigation intensified over the following days. FBI agents joined local police. They interviewed everyone: teachers, neighbors, delivery drivers, anyone who might have been on Route 29 that morning. They searched the woods surrounding Meadowbrook with dogs and helicopters equipped with thermal imaging. They dredged local ponds when the ice melted enough. Nothing. One witness emerged: 72-year-old Martha Green, who lived on Route 29. She told investigators she'd been up early that morning dealing with a broken water heater. Through her front window, she'd seen a dark-colored sedan slow down near where Emily's backpack was later found. It was around 7:30, Martha said, her hands shaking as she held her tea. "The car stopped for maybe a minute. I didn't think much of it at the time. People stop there sometimes to check directions or make phone calls." "Did you see the driver?" Agent Sarah Chen from the FBI asked. "Just a glimpse. Could have been a man, could have been a woman. The windows were tinted and it was still pretty dark out. I remember thinking the car looked nice though. Clean, not local." The description was frustratingly vague. Investigators compiled a list of every dark sedan in a 50-mile radius. It was a list of thousands. As January turned to February, then March, the media coverage began to fade. The search parties grew smaller. The FBI agents returned to Richmond, leaving behind only Agent Chen and one colleague. The reality was brutal. Without a body, without witnesses, without any solid leads, the case was going cold. Claire refused to accept it. She converted Emily's bedroom into a command center, covering the walls with maps, timelines, and theories. Every weekend she drove Route 29, stopping at the spot where the backpack was found, searching for something everyone else had missed. Sheriff Brennan visited her often, more as a friend than an investigator. "Claire, you need to rest. You need to take care of yourself." "How can I rest when she's out there somewhere?" By the end of the year, Meadowbrook had learned to live with the tragedy. Emily Rogers became another statistic, another unsolved case. But in the small blue house on Maple Street, a candle burned in the window every night, and a mother refused to stop believing in miracles she couldn't yet see. The years that followed Emily Rogers' disappearance transformed Meadowbrook in ways both visible and invisible. The missing posters that once covered every storefront faded in the sun, replaced by advertisements and community notices. The search parties that had once mobilized hundreds dwindled to a handful of dedicated volunteers who met quarterly, more out of solidarity with Claire than genuine hope. But Claire Rogers never stopped searching. By 2005, 2 years after Emily vanished, the case had been officially reclassified as cold. Agent Sarah Chen, who had become something of a friend to Claire, delivered the news in person on a gray afternoon in March. "This doesn't mean we're giving up," Sarah said, sitting at Claire's kitchen table, the same table where Emily had done her homework, where she'd eaten her last breakfast. "It just means we don't have active leads to pursue right now. But technology is advancing. DNA databases are growing. If anything surfaces, we'll be ready." Claire stared at the cold coffee in her mug. She looked older than her 43 years. Dark circles permanently shadowed her eyes and streaks of premature gray threaded through her brown hair. "Everyone keeps telling me to move on, to accept that she's gone. How am I supposed to do that when I don't know what happened to her?" "I'm not telling you to move on," Sarah replied carefully. "But I am telling you that you need to live. Emily would want that." After Sarah left, Claire stood at Emily's bedroom window. She'd kept everything exactly as it was. The posters of boy bands on the walls, the stuffed animals arranged on the bed, the half-finished puzzle on the desk. The only addition was the candle she lit every evening, its flame a beacon of hope in the darkness. Sheriff Tom Brennan retired in 2007. His replacement, Sheriff Linda Martinez, was younger, more tech-savvy, and equally committed to solving the Rogers case. She'd been a deputy when Emily disappeared and had never forgotten the image of that abandoned backpack in the snow. "Mrs. Rogers," Linda said during one of her visits, "I've been reviewing the case files. There's something that's always bothered me about those tire tracks we found near the backpack." Claire looked up from the scrapbook she was creating. A massive collection of every article, every tip, every detail about Emily's case. What about them? The tread pattern. It matched a specific type of all-season tire, pretty common. But the wear pattern suggested it was a newer vehicle, maybe only a few thousand miles on it. Someone who'd just bought or leased a car right before the abduction. Did anyone follow up on that? They tried. But in 2003, those records weren't digitized the way they are now. They interviewed local dealerships, but someone could have bought a car anywhere within a few hundred miles. Linda leaned forward. But now, with better databases and digital records, I want to revisit it. It's a long shot, but it's something. Hope flickered in Claire's chest, but she'd learned not to let it burn too bright. She'd chased too many long shots that led nowhere. The community's relationship with the Rogers case evolved over time. Every January 14th, the local church held a vigil. Father Michael, who'd baptized Emily as a baby, always led the service. Dozens of people still attended, holding candles and saying prayers for a girl many of them had never met. But there were whispers too, cruel speculation that surfaces when answers don't come. Some suggested Claire herself was involved. Others claimed Emily had run away. A few conspiracy theorists insisted she'd been taken by a trafficking ring or a serial killer passing through. Claire heard them all. Each rumor was another knife in her heart. In 2010, a potential breakthrough emerged. A girl matching Emily's description was spotted at a gas station in Tennessee. The clerk called police, who detained a man and a teenage girl. Claire drove through the night to Nashville, her heart pounding with desperate hope. But it wasn't Emily. The girl was a runaway from Florida. Claire sobbed in the parking lot of the Nashville Police Department, Sheriff Martinez's arms around her. "I thought this was it," Claire whispered. "I thought I'd finally found her. I know, I'm so sorry." The false lead made national news, briefly reigniting interest in the case. Dr. Marcus Webb, the former deputy who'd found Emily's backpack, had since become a forensic psychologist specializing in missing children cases. He appeared on several news programs discussing the Rogers case. "What's unique about Emily's disappearance is the complete lack of evidence," Dr. Webb explained on a CNN segment. The abduction was clean, planned, executed in broad daylight on a residential street. This wasn't opportunistic. Someone had been watching her. Someone had been planning this. His words sent chills through viewers across the country. In Meadowbrook, people started locking their doors and watching their children more carefully, even though 17 years had passed. Claire continued working at the local library, the same job she'd held since before Emily was born. Her co-workers had long since stopped asking if she was okay. They knew she wasn't. But she showed up every day, processed books, helped patrons, and maintained a facade of normalcy that fooled no one. At home, she maintained her ritual. Every evening at sunset, she lit the candle in Emily's window. Every birthday, Emily would be 18, 19, 20. She baked a cake and sang alone in her kitchen. Every Christmas, she wrapped a present and placed it under the tree, adding to the growing pile of unopened gifts. Her sister Jennifer visited monthly from Richmond, always bringing the same worried expression and gentle suggestions about therapy, support groups, and moving forward. "Claire, you can't keep living like this," Jennifer said in 2015 during one of her visits. "It's been 12 years. You need to at least consider the possibility that—" "Don't." Claire's voice was sharp. "Don't you dare say it. I'm worried about you. You're not eating enough. You're not sleeping. This house is becoming a shrine. This house is Emily's home. And when she comes back, everything will be exactly as she left it." Jennifer sighed, recognizing the futility of arguing. "Just promise me you'll take care of yourself, please." By 2018, 15 years after the disappearance, DNA technology had advanced significantly. Sheriff Martinez arranged for Emily's case to be entered into every available database. The FBI's combined DNA index system, Namus, and several private genetic genealogy databases that had gained popularity. If Emily's DNA shows up anywhere, a crime scene, a hospital, even one of those ancestry test websites, will get an alert, Martinez explained to Claire. "It's not much, but it's something." Claire nodded, clinging to this new thread of hope. She'd learned about genetic genealogy's role in solving cold cases, how distant relatives' DNA could identify victims or suspects decades after crimes occurred. She'd even submitted her own DNA to multiple services, hoping against hope that Emily might do the same someday. The town had changed too. Meadowbrook's population had grown from 5,000 to nearly 8,000. New families moved in, people who'd never heard of Emily Rogers or her missing backpack. The old hardware store closed. The elementary school was renovated. Route 29 was repaved, eliminating the last physical traces of that January morning. But Claire's blue house on Maple Street remained frozen in time. Neighbors had started calling it the Candle House because of the flame that burned nightly in the upstairs window. Some found it touching, others found it unsettling. In 2020, as the world grappled with a pandemic, Claire turned 57. Emily would be 26. She'd missed her daughter's entire adolescence, her high school graduation, her first love, her first job. She'd missed everything. One evening in December, as Claire lit the candle and stared out at the snow-covered street, she allowed herself a moment of honest despair. "Are you out there, baby?" she whispered to the window. "Are you alive? Do you remember me?" The flame flickered but didn't answer. Sheriff Martinez visited a week later with unexpected news. "Claire, I wanted you to hear this from me first. The FBI is organizing a task force to review cold cases using new AI technology. Emily's case has been selected. What does that mean? It means they're going to analyze every piece of evidence with fresh eyes and new tools. Phone records, financial transactions, everything. If there's a pattern we missed, they might find it." Claire felt that dangerous flicker of hope again. "Do you really think—" "I think," Martinez interrupted gently, "that I've known you for almost 20 years, and I've never seen you give up. That has to mean something." As 2020 turned to 2021, Claire Rogers continued her vigil. She was older, grayer, and more tired than she'd ever been, but every night she lit that candle, and every night she whispered the same prayer she'd been whispering for 18 years. "Come home, Emily, please come home." She had no way of knowing that her miracle was already in motion. March 2021, Columbus, Ohio. The woman sat in the waiting room of the Franklin County Social Services office, her hands trembling in her lap. She looked to be in her mid-20s, thin, with long brown hair that hadn't been cut in years. Her clothes were clean but worn, jeans that were slightly too big, and a gray sweater with a small hole near the collar. Caseworker Linda Morrison called her from the doorway. "Miss, I'm sorry, what did you say your name was?" The woman looked up, her hazel eyes filled with confusion and exhaustion. "That's the problem, I don't know. I can't remember." Linda had been a social worker for 15 years. She'd seen everything. Abuse victims, trafficking survivors, people with severe mental illness. But something about this woman's lost expression struck her differently. "Come on back," Linda said gently, leading her to a small office with pale blue walls and a desk cluttered with files. "Let's start from the beginning. How did you get here?" The woman sat down, her body rigid with tension. "I've been staying at the women's shelter on Broad Street for about a week. They told me I needed to come here, that you could help me figure out who I am." "Okay, that's good. What's the last thing you do remember?" "I remember. A house. A small house in the woods. There was a man. He called himself my father, but—" She paused, her brow furrowing. "Something feels wrong. The memories don't make sense. He told me we were alone, that we couldn't trust anyone else. He homeschooled me. We never left the property except for supplies." Linda typed notes on her computer. "This man, when did you last see him?" "He died. About 6 weeks ago. Heart attack." The woman's voice was flat, emotionless. "I found him in the morning. He was just gone. After that, I didn't know what to do. I waited for someone to come, but no one did. Eventually, I left the house. I walked to the nearest town. I think it was about 5 miles. Someone at a gas station gave me a ride here to Columbus." "And you don't know your name, your birthday, anything about your past before this man?" The woman closed her eyes. "I have. Flashes, images, a purple backpack, snow, a woman's voice saying, 'I love you, baby.' But when I try to hold on to them, they disappear. He told me I was Sarah Mitchell, but I found papers after he died. A birth certificate, documents, and the dates don't match what he told me. Nothing makes sense." Linda's instincts were screaming. This wasn't just amnesia or mental illness. This was something else entirely. "I'm going to arrange for you to see a doctor, okay? And I think we should file a missing persons report. See if anyone matching your description has been reported." "Missing? You think someone is looking for me?" "I think," Linda said carefully, "that you deserve to know who you are." Within 3 hours, the woman was at Riverside Methodist Hospital. Dr. Patricia Coleman, a neurologist, conducted a thorough examination. Physically, the woman was healthy despite being underweight, but psychologically, she was a puzzle. "Your memory loss isn't consistent with typical amnesia," Dr. Coleman explained. reviewing brain scans. You remember language, basic skills, even complex concepts. What you don't remember is your identity, your past before a certain point. That suggests psychological trauma rather than neurological damage. Detective James Harper from the Columbus Police Department arrived that evening. He was a veteran investigator in his early 50s, specializing in missing persons and human trafficking cases. He sat across from the woman in a private hospital room, his recorder running. "I need you to tell me everything about this man who raised you," James said. His name, what he looked like, where the house was located. He said his name was Robert Mitchell. He was older, maybe in his 60s when he died, gray hair, glasses, he was. Not mean exactly, but strict. He said the outside world was dangerous, that people would try to hurt us if they knew where we were. Where was the house? Rural. Very isolated. Near Athens, I think. That's where I caught the bus to Columbus. The house was down a long dirt road surrounded by trees. No neighbors for miles. James exchanged a glance with Linda Morrison, who had insisted on being present. This was starting to sound like a kidnapping case. "Did he ever hurt you?" James asked gently. The woman considered this. "No, he never hit me. Never. Touched me inappropriately. He fed me, clothed me, taught me to read and write. But he wouldn't let me leave. He said it was for my protection. He monitored everything, what I read, what I learned. We had no internet, no phone, no TV, just books he approved and a radio for emergencies. Did he have any visitors, friends, family? Never. It was just us. For as long as I can remember, it was just us." James made a note to send deputies to Athens County immediately. "I'm going to recommend we take a DNA sample. We can run it through missing persons databases. If someone reported you missing, we'll find out." The woman nodded, a tear sliding down her cheek. "I just want to know who I am. I feel like I'm supposed to be someone, like there's a part of me that's missing." The DNA swab was taken that night. It would typically take weeks to process, but Detective Harper marked it as urgent. Something about this case felt significant. At the Franklin County Women's Shelter, Director Marissa Chen had been following the developments. She'd been the one who'd first noticed how disoriented the woman seemed, how she'd flinched at loud noises and seemed overwhelmed by simple things like choosing food from a menu. "I've worked with trauma survivors for 20 years, Marissa told Linda Morrison over the phone. "This woman has been completely isolated from society. The way she speaks, the way she moves. It's like she's from another era. She didn't know what a smartphone was. She'd never heard of social media. When I showed her how to use the television, she stared at it like it was magic." "Which matches with what she told us," Linda replied. "If this Robert Mitchell kept her isolated since childhood, that's child abduction. That's imprisonment. That's psychological abuse." Marissa's voice hardened. "We need to find out who this man was and why he did this." Athens County Sheriff's deputies found the house 3 days later. It was exactly as the woman had described. A small, weathered structure at the end of a rutted dirt road, miles from the nearest neighbor. The property was registered to Robert Allen Mitchell, who had purchased it with cash in 2004. Inside, deputies found a time capsule of isolation, homeschooling materials dated from 2003 to 2020, shelves of carefully curated books, classics, science texts, history, but nothing contemporary, a generator for electricity, a wood stove for heat, no computer, no television, a single radio, still tuned to an AM news station. And in a locked metal box hidden under the floorboards, they found a girl's purple backpack with a name embroidered on it, Emily Rogers. Detective Harper received the call while sitting in his office, reviewing cold case files. His hand froze on the phone. "Say that again." "Emily Rogers," the Athens County deputy repeated. "There's a missing child poster in here too, dated January 2003. Meadowbrook, Virginia. Says she was 9 years old when she disappeared." James immediately pulled up the National Crime Information Center database. When Emily Rogers' case file appeared on his screen, he felt his heart rate accelerate. He stared at the age-progressed photo from 2018, what Emily might look like at 24. Then he pulled up the intake photo of the woman from the shelter. The resemblance was unmistakable. "Dear God," he whispered, "we found her. After 18 years, we found Emily Rogers." The DNA results came back 4 days later, confirming what the backpack had already revealed. The woman who didn't know her own name was Emily Marie Rogers, who had disappeared from Meadowbrook, Virginia, on January 14, 2003. She was alive. She had been alive this entire time. Detective Harper sat with Emily in the hospital, the DNA report in his hands. Your name is Emily Rogers. You're 27 years old. You were born on June 3, 1993, in Meadowbrook, Virginia. Emily stared at him, processing information that felt both foreign and strangely familiar. Rogers, she repeated slowly. Why does that sound right? Because it's your name. Your real name. You were abducted when you were 9 years old walking to school. Your mother, Claire Rogers, has been searching for you every single day for 18 years. Emily's hands flew to her mouth. My mother? I have a mother? You have a mother who never stopped believing you were alive, who never gave up hope. James pulled out his phone, showing her Claire's photo from a recent news article about the anniversary of Emily's disappearance. This is her. Emily stared at the photo. The woman was older, worn down by grief, but something in James's mind clicked with devastating force. I know her face, Emily whispered. I see her sometimes when I close my eyes. She's younger in my memories. She's calling me baby. That's because she's your mother, Emily, and she's been waiting for you to come home. The revelation that Emily Rogers had been found alive after 18 years sent shockwaves through law enforcement agencies across 3 states. Within hours of the DNA confirmation, Detective James Harper's office became command central for what was now both a recovery case and a criminal investigation. FBI agent Sarah Chen, who had never closed Emily's file despite her retirement 2 years earlier, was on a plane from Richmond within 3 hours of receiving the call. I can't believe it, Sarah said, meeting James at the Columbus Police Department headquarters. 18 years. She was alive this entire time and we had no idea. James led her to a conference room where evidence from the Athens County house was spread across multiple tables. The purple backpack sat in an evidence bag, a ghost from 2003. Next to it were stacks of homeschooling materials, Robert Mitchell's personal documents, and dozens of photographs. We've been piecing together Mitchell's background, James explained, pulling up a file on his laptop. Robert Allen Mitchell, born 1949 in Roanoke, Virginia, never married, no children of his own. Worked as an electrician for most of his life. Quiet, kept to himself. But here's where it gets interesting. He clicked to another document. In 2002, Mitchell purchased the property in Athens County, 7 months before Emily disappeared. He paid cash. The following year, right after Emily's abduction, he quit his job and vanished. No one in his family knew where he went. A few assumed he'd died. Sarah studied Mitchell's photograph, a driver's license photo from 2001. He looked ordinary, forgettable, the kind of man who could blend into any crowd. What was his connection to the Rogers family? That's what's chilling, James replied. Mitchell grew up in Meadowbrook. He lived 2 streets away from Claire Rogers' childhood home. We've been digging through old records. Mitchell's mother and Claire's mother were in the same church group. The families knew each other casually. Sarah felt her stomach drop. So he knew Claire. He watched her grow up. And when she had a daughter, he became obsessed. James finished. We found journals in the house, hundreds of pages. He'd been watching Emily for months before the abduction, documenting her routine, her schedule, everything. He refers to her as the gift and my redemption. Jesus Christ. Sarah sat down heavily. This was premeditated for months, maybe years. A forensic psychologist, Dr. Rachel Torres, had been called in to analyze Mitchell's writings. She entered the conference room carrying a thick binder of copied journal pages. I've been reviewing Mitchell's journal since yesterday, Dr. Torres said, her expression troubled. This is one of the most disturbing cases of parental substitution I've encountered. Mitchell was delusional. He genuinely believed Emily was meant to be his daughter, that he was rescuing her from some unspecified danger. Was he schizophrenic? Sarah asked. Not in the clinical sense. More likely a personality disorder combined with obsessive fixation. He created an entire false reality. In his mind, he was a good father protecting his child from a dangerous world. He saw himself as a hero. James pulled up another document. We've been reconstructing the abduction. Mitchell's financial records show he rented a dark blue sedan in late 2002. Matches the witness description from Route 29. He returned it 3 days after Emily disappeared. We believe he grabbed her that morning, drove her to Athens County, and kept her there ever since. The implications were staggering. For 18 years, Emily had been less than 400 miles from her mother, hidden in plain sight in rural Ohio. How is she doing? Sarah asked quietly. Emily, psychologically. She's struggling, James admitted. Dr. Coleman has been working with her daily. Emily's memories of her early childhood are fragmented. Mitchell told her she was Sarah Mitchell, his biological daughter. He said her mother had died when she was young. She believed him because she had no reason not to. Dr. Torres nodded. Classic indoctrination. Mitchell isolated her completely, controlled all information she received. He became her entire world. Now she's learning that everything she believed about herself was a lie. That's profoundly traumatic. In her hospital room, Emily sat with a therapist named Dr. Angela Warren, trying to process the impossible. I remember him teaching me to read, Emily said, staring at her hands. He was patient. He made me soup when I was sick. He taught me math, history, science. How can that same person be a monster who stole me from my real family? Dr. Warren leaned forward. People are complex, Emily. Robert Mitchell clearly cared for you in his own twisted way. But caring for you doesn't excuse what he did. He stole your childhood, your identity, your mother's 18 years. Those things can coexist. He could be kind to you while committing an unforgivable crime. I keep having these flashes, Emily continued. A house with blue shutters, a woman singing, the smell of cookies baking. Are those real memories, or am I making them up? They're real. Those are memories of your mother, of your home in Meadowbrook. Your mind protected them, buried them, but they never completely disappeared. Emily's eyes filled with tears. She's been looking for me all this time? Every single day. She never gave up on you. Meanwhile, in Meadowbrook, Virginia, Sheriff Linda Martinez sat in Claire Rogers' living room, preparing to deliver news that would change everything. Claire had aged another decade since Martinez had last visited. She was 68 now, her hair completely gray, her body thin from years of stress and poor eating. But her eyes still held that fierce determination, that refusal to surrender hope. Linda, Claire said, bringing tea from the kitchen. You said this was urgent. Has something happened with Emily's case? Martinez set down her teacup, her hands trembling slightly. Claire, I need you to sit down. I need you to sit. Something in Martinez's tone made Claire freeze. What? What is it? Did you find a body? No. God, no. Claire, we found Emily. She's alive. The teacup slipped from Claire's hands, shattering on the hardwood floor. She didn't seem to notice. What did you say? Emily is alive. She was found in Columbus, Ohio, 6 days ago. DNA confirmed her identity. It's really her, Claire. Your daughter is alive. Claire's legs gave out. She sat down hard on the couch, her entire body shaking. Alive? After 18 years? How? Where has she been? Martinez explained everything. The house in Athens County, Robert Mitchell, the journals, the years of isolation. Claire listened in stunned silence, tears streaming down her face. Robert Mitchell, Claire whispered. I remember him. He used to do electrical work around town. He fixed our water heater once, maybe 10 years before Emily was born. He seemed so normal. He was watching you, Claire, watching your family, watching. When Emily was born, something in him fixated on her. He spent years planning this. Claire's grief transformed into rage. He stole my baby. He stole 18 years. If he wasn't already dead, I'd kill him myself. I know. Believe me, I know. Martinez paused. Claire, Emily wants to meet you, but I need to prepare you. She's not the 9-year-old girl you remember. She's 27 now. She's been living in isolation, believing Mitchell's lies. This is going to be complicated and difficult. I don't care. Claire stood up, suddenly energized despite her shaking hands. I don't care if it's complicated. She's my daughter. I need to see her. When can I see her? We're arranging it now. Probably in the next few days, but there's going to be media attention, Claire. This is already making national news. You need to be prepared for that. Claire looked around her living room, the shrine she'd maintained for 18 years. Emily's school photos on every surface, the candle that burned nightly, the wrapped presents under the tree even though it was March. I always knew, Claire whispered. Everyone told me to give up, to accept she was gone. But I knew. A mother knows when her child is still alive. The news broke that evening. Every major network led with the story. Missing child found after 18 years. Virginia girl abducted in 2003 found alive in Ohio. The miracle of Emily Rogers. Father Michael at the Meadowbrook Community Church received the news while preparing for evening services. He immediately changed his sermon, and when he announced Emily's discovery to the congregation, people wept openly. Some collapsed in their pews. Others embraced, sharing in the joy of a miracle they'd stopped believing could happen. Martha Green, now 90 years old and living in a nursing home, cried when her daughter told her the news. I saw that car. Martha kept saying. I saw it and I didn't know. I should have known. Dr. Marcus Webb, the forensic psychologist who'd found Emily's backpack 18 years earlier, was interviewed on CNN within hours. This is unprecedented, Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion. Child abduction cases that go unsolved for this long almost never end in recovery. The fact that Emily is alive, that she's been found, it's nothing short of miraculous. But we need to remember that Emily is a victim. She's going to need extensive support, therapy, time to process what was done to her. Back in Columbus, Detective Harper was coordinating the reunion. FBI protocols for recovered missing persons were clear. Slow, careful, therapeutic. But Harper also understood that Claire Rogers had waited 18 years. She deserved to see her daughter. We're going to facilitate the meeting in a private, controlled environment, Harper explained to both Claire and Emily separately. A therapist will be present. We'll give you as much time as you need, but we'll also be monitoring to ensure it's not overwhelming for either of you. Emily, in her hospital room, held a photo of 9-year-old her that Harper had provided. She stared at the gap-toothed smile, the purple shirt, the bright eyes full of innocence. That's me, she said softly. I was that little girl, and then someone took me away from everything I knew. Yes, Dr. Warren confirmed gently. Emily looked up, her hazel eyes filled with determination and fear. I want to meet my mother. I'm scared, but I need to meet her. I need to know where I really came from. The date was set, March 24th, 2021. After 18 years, 3 months, and 10 days, Emily Rogers would finally see her mother again. March 24th, 2021, Columbus, Ohio. The conference room at Riverside Methodist Hospital had been transformed into a neutral meeting space. Soft lighting replaced the harsh fluorescence. Comfortable chairs arranged in a small circle. A box of tissues on the side table. 2 therapists, Dr. Angela Warren and Dr. Patricia Coleman, stood near the door, ready to intervene if needed. Claire Rogers sat in one of the chairs, her hands gripping the armrest so tightly her knuckles had turned white. She'd barely slept in the 6 days since learning Emily was alive. She'd flown to Columbus the previous evening, staying in a hotel room where she'd paced until dawn. Sheriff Martinez sat beside her, a steadying presence. Remember what the therapists said. Let Emily take the lead. Don't overwhelm her with questions. This is going to be emotional for both of you. I know, Claire's voice trembled. What if she doesn't remember me? What if she doesn't want to know me? She wants to meet you, Claire. She asked for this. The door opened, and Emily entered with Detective Harper. Claire's breath caught in her throat. The girl she'd been searching for was gone, replaced by a woman. Emily was tall, 5'7", with long brown hair that fell past her shoulders. She wore jeans and a borrowed sweater from the hospital, both slightly too large for her thin frame. But her eyes, those hazel eyes, were exactly as Claire remembered. Emily stopped just inside the door, staring at Claire with an expression of wonder and terror. For a long moment, neither woman moved. The room was silent, except for the quiet hum of the ventilation system. Then Claire stood up slowly, tears already streaming down her face. Emily? Baby, is it really you? Emily's hand flew to her mouth. That word, baby. You called me that in my dreams. Because you're my baby. You'll always be my baby no matter how old you are. Emily took a tentative step forward, then another. I don't remember much. Just pieces. A blue house. Your voice. The smell of your perfume. Lavender, Claire whispered. I wore lavender perfume. Your father gave it to me for our anniversary. My father? Emily's voice broke. I had a father? David Rogers. He died 2 years before you. Claire couldn't finish the sentence. He loved you so much. He used to call you his little sunshine. The dam broke. Emily crossed the remaining distance and collapsed into Claire's arms, sobbing. Claire held her daughter, this stranger who was her child, and 18 years of grief poured out of both of them. Dr. Warren and Dr. Coleman exchanged glances but didn't intervene. This moment, painful as it was, needed to happen. I'm sorry, Emily gasped between sobs. I'm so sorry I forgot you. I tried to remember. Sometimes I'd have these dreams and I'd wake up feeling like something was missing, but I didn't know what. Shh, baby, it's not your fault. None of this is your fault. Claire stroked Emily's hair, the gesture automatic after 18 years of absence. You were stolen from me. You were 9 years old. You couldn't have fought him off. You couldn't have found your way back. They held each other for nearly 20 minutes before Emily finally pulled back, wiping her eyes. Can you tell me about that day? The day I disappeared? I need to understand what happened. Claire led Emily to the chairs and they sat close together, Claire's hand never leaving Emily's. The story poured out: the purple coat, the stuck zipper, the wave goodbye, the backpack in the snow, the footprints that ended at the road. I watched you walk down the driveway, Claire said, her voice thick with old pain. I watched you turn the corner. And then you were just gone, like you'd vanished into thin air. Emily listened, absorbing information that felt both alien and somehow right. Robert, the man who took me, he told me my mother died when I was little. He said we had to hide because bad people were looking for us. I believed him. God, I believed everything he said. He manipulated you, Emily. You were a child. That's what predators do. They isolate their victims, control the information they receive, make them dependent. Over the next 2 hours, Claire showed Emily photographs. The Rogers family photo from Christmas 2002. Claire, David, and 9-year-old Emily in matching sweaters. Emily's school pictures from kindergarten through 3rd grade. Photos of birthday parties, Easter egg hunts, trips to the beach. Emily studied each one with intense focus, as if she could will the memories back into existence. I remember this, she said, pointing to a photo of herself on a swing set. I remember that swing. It went so high I thought I could touch the clouds. That was in our backyard. You spent hours on that swing. Your father built it for your 6th birthday. What was he like, my father? Claire smiled through tears. He was wonderful, funny, patient, kind. He worked as a mechanic. He loved old cars and terrible dad jokes. He adored you. Every evening after work, he'd scoop you up and spin you around until you were dizzy with laughter. Emily closed her eyes, trying to summon the memory. I think I can almost hear his laugh. Deep, warm. That's right. That's exactly right. Dr. Warren gently interrupted. This is a lot of information to process, Emily. How are you feeling? Emily looked at Claire, then back at the therapist. Overwhelmed, confused, but also relieved. Like a piece of me that was missing just clicked back into place. Is that normal? Completely normal, Dr. Warren assured her. You're recovering parts of your identity that were stolen from you. It's going to feel disorienting, but it's also healing. Claire reached for Emily's hand. I have so many questions, but I don't want to push you. We can take this as slowly as you need. I want to know everything, Emily said firmly. Tell me about Meadowbrook. Tell me about our house, my school, my friends. I need to fill in the gaps. They talked until evening. Claire told Emily about Patterson Elementary, about her 3rd grade teacher, Mrs. Henderson, about her best friend, Jessica Martinez, who had moved away in 2005. She described their house, the blue shutters, the oak tree in the front yard, Emily's bedroom with the purple walls and the constellation nightlight. I kept everything exactly the same, Claire admitted. Your room hasn't changed. Your clothes are still in the closet. I couldn't let go. Emily squeezed her hand. You knew I was alive. Somehow you knew. A mother knows. I felt you out there. I knew you were coming home. As the evening wore on, Emily asked the harder questions. What about Robert Mitchell? Did you know him? Claire's expression darkened. I remember him vaguely. He did some work around town. I had no idea that he'd been watching you, watching us. He wasn't cruel to me, Emily said quietly. I need you to understand that. He fed me, taught me, took care of me when I was sick. He never hit me or hurt me, but he also locked me in that house for 18 years. He stole my entire life. You can feel both things, Dr. Coleman interjected. You can acknowledge that he met your basic needs while also recognizing the profound damage he caused. Those emotions don't cancel each other out. Detective Harper, who'd been quietly observing, stepped forward. Emily, Claire, I need to update you both on the investigation. We've learned more about Mitchell's background, and some of it is disturbing. He pulled out a file. Mitchell was investigated twice in the 1990s for suspicious behavior around children. No charges were ever filed. The evidence wasn't sufficient, but the pattern was there. He'd been fixated on young girls for decades. Claire felt sick, and he had access to my daughter. We believe Emily was his only victim, Harper said quickly. We've found no evidence of other abductions, but yes, he specifically targeted her. His journals indicate he'd been planning this since Emily was 6 or 7 years old. Emily's face went pale. He was watching me for years? Yes. We're still piecing together exactly how he executed the abduction, but we know he rented a vehicle, studied your routine, and waited for the perfect opportunity. The morning of January 14th, 2003, he grabbed you as you walked towards school, forced you into the car, and drove you to the house in Athens County. I don't remember any of it, Emily whispered. I don't remember being taken. That's common with traumatic events, especially for children, Dr. Warren explained. Your mind may have blocked it out as a protective mechanism. Sheriff Martinez, who had been silent, spoke up. Claire, the media attention is intense. There are news crews outside the hospital. The story has gone international. You both need to be prepared for that level of scrutiny. Claire looked at Emily. We don't have to talk to them. We can release a statement through the police and keep everything else private. Emily shook her head. No, I want to speak. Not for them. For other victims. For other families who are still searching. If my story can give someone hope, then I need to tell it. Are you sure? Claire asked. You don't owe anyone anything. I know. But I need to do this. For me. To take back control of my narrative. The press conference was scheduled for the following day. That night, Claire stayed in a room adjacent to Emily's hospital suite. Before bed, Emily knocked softly on the connecting door. Can I come in? Of course, baby. Always. Emily sat on the edge of Claire's bed. I'm scared. What if I can't be the daughter you remember? What if I'm too damaged, too different? Claire took Emily's face in her hands. Listen to me. You don't have to be anyone but yourself. I don't need you to be 9 years old again. I need you to be exactly who you are right now. A survivor. A strong woman who endured the impossible and came out the other side. That's my daughter. That's who I've been waiting for. Emily leaned into her mother's embrace. Will you tell me a story? Something from when I was little? Claire smiled, memories flooding back. When you were 5, you decided you wanted to be a veterinarian. You started collecting injured bugs and keeping them in jars, trying to fix their broken wings with tape and band-aids. Your father and I didn't have the heart to tell you it wasn't working, so we'd sneak outside at night and release healthy bugs near your jars so you'd think you'd healed them. Emily laughed, a sound Claire hadn't heard in 18 years. Did I believe it? You were so proud. You told everyone at church that you'd healed 17 bugs and 2 ants. They talked late into the night, Claire sharing stories, and Emily drinking them in like water after years in a desert. When Emily finally returned to her room, Claire sat by the window looking out at the Columbus skyline. For 18 years, she'd lit a candle every night. Tomorrow, she'd light it for the last time, not as a beacon calling Emily home, but as a celebration that her daughter had finally returned. The miracle she'd never stopped believing in had come true. March 25th, 2021. The press conference room at Columbus Police Department headquarters was packed beyond capacity. Journalists from CNN, NBC, ABC, the New York Times, and dozens of local outlets filled every available space. Cameras lined the back wall. The world was watching. Emily Rogers sat at a table beside her mother, both women holding hands. Detective Harper, Sheriff Martinez, and FBI agent Sarah Chen flanked them. Emily had insisted on minimal makeup, wanting to appear authentic rather than polished. She wore a simple blue blouse. Claire had brought it from Meadowbrook, and somehow it fit perfectly. Detective Harper opened with a statement summarizing the case, the 2003 abduction, the 18 years of captivity, the discovery, the DNA confirmation. Then he turned the microphone over to Emily. The room fell silent. Emily's hands trembled as she unfolded a piece of paper with notes she'd written that morning. But when she looked up at the sea of faces and cameras, she set the paper aside. My name is Emily Rogers, she began, her voice stronger than she'd expected. For 18 years, I didn't know that was my name. I was told I was someone else, raised in isolation, kept from the world. The man who took me convinced me that his lies were the truth and I had no reason to doubt him. She paused, gathering strength. I want to speak directly to families who are still searching for missing loved ones. Don't give up. My mother never gave up. For 18 years, she kept my memory alive, kept searching, kept believing. Because of her faith, I'm standing here today. Claire squeezed her hand, tears streaming down her face. I also want to speak to survivors of abduction, trafficking, or captivity. You're not defined by what was done to you. You're not broken. Recovery is possible. Healing is possible. I'm just beginning my journey, but I already know that I am more than what happened to me. A reporter called out, Emily, what do you remember about the day you were taken? Emily shook her head. I don't remember the abduction itself. My therapists tell me that's normal, that trauma can block memories. But I'm working to recover what I lost, not just memories, but my identity, my family, my life. How do you feel about Robert Mitchell? Another journalist asked. The room tensed. Emily took a breath. That's complicated. He provided for my physical needs but stole everything else. He gave me education but denied me freedom. I'm angry at what he did, but I'm also grateful to be alive. Those feelings can coexist. Mrs. Rogers, a reporter directed at Claire, how does it feel to have your daughter back? Claire's voice cracked as she spoke. It feels like I can finally breathe again after holding my breath for 18 years. Emily is alive, she's here. That's all that matters. We have a long road ahead, but we're walking it together. The questions continued for 40 minutes. Emily handled each one with remarkable composure, occasionally looking to Claire for support. When it finally ended, they were escorted through a back exit away from the crush of media. In the car back to the hotel, Emily collapsed against Claire. I did it. I actually did it. You were incredible, Claire said, stroking her daughter's hair. So strong, so brave. When can we go home? Emily asked softly. To Meadowbrook. I want to see the house. I want to see where I came from. Whenever you're ready, baby. Whenever you're ready. 3 days later, Emily was medically cleared to leave the hospital. The drive from Columbus to Meadowbrook took 6 hours. Sheriff Martinez drove, with Claire and Emily in the back seat. Emily stared out the window watching America pass by, a country she'd been told was dangerous but which now seemed both overwhelming and beautiful. They stopped once at a rest area. Emily stood in the parking lot, feeling the March wind on her face, watching families load in and out of cars. Normal life. She'd missed 18 years of normal life. You okay? Claire asked, joining her. It's all so much, so many people, so much noise. In the house it was just silence and Robert's voice. Now everything is. Overwhelming? Yes, but also amazing. I can go anywhere, do anything. That's terrifying and wonderful at the same time. As they crossed into Virginia, Emily leaned forward. How far? About 30 minutes, Martinez answered. The whole town knows you're coming. They've been preparing. Emily's anxiety spiked. What do you mean preparing? You'll see, Claire said gently. As they entered Meadowbrook, Emily saw what they meant. Every storefront displayed Welcome Home Emily signs. The church marquee read, Emily's Miracle. Thank you, God. People lined the streets, waving and crying as the car passed. Some held balloons. Others held signs with her childhood picture. Oh my God, Emily whispered, overwhelmed. They pulled up to a blue house with white shutters. The oak tree in the front yard was exactly as Emily had glimpsed in her fragmented memories. Claire's sister Jennifer waited on the porch, tears already streaming down her face. That's your Aunt Jennifer, Claire explained. She's been desperate to see you. Emily stepped out of the car slowly. The house looked both familiar and foreign. She walked up the driveway and suddenly a memory slammed into her with crystal clarity. Roller skating down this same driveway. Her father running behind her to catch her when she fell. I remember, she gasped. Dad. He was teaching me to skate. I fell and scraped my knee and he carried me inside and put a Batman Band-Aid on it. Claire let out a sob. You loved those Band-Aids. We had a whole box of them. Jennifer embraced Emily carefully. Welcome home, sweetheart. We never stopped believing. Inside, Emily stood in the entryway looking around. Everything felt like a dream. Family photos covered the walls, including hundreds of her. The living room looked like a time capsule from 2003. Can I see my room? Emily asked. Claire led her upstairs. When Emily pushed open the door to her childhood bedroom, she froze. Purple walls, the constellation nightlight, stuffed animals on the bed, posters of boy bands she barely recognized, but more than that, a pile of wrapped presents, dozens of them. I bought you a present every birthday and Christmas, Claire explained, her voice breaking. I couldn't stop. I couldn't accept that you weren't coming home. Emily walked to the bed, picking up a worn teddy bear. The moment she held it, another memory surfaced. Mr. Cuddles. I named him Mr. Cuddles. Yes, you took him everywhere. You cried for 3 days when you accidentally left him at your grandmother's house. Emily clutched the bear, 18 years of lost childhood washing over her. She sat on the bed, her bed, and wept, not just for what was taken, but for what she was beginning to reclaim. Over the following weeks, Emily began the arduous process of rebuilding her life. She worked with therapists daily, processing trauma and recovering memories. Some days were harder than others. She had panic attacks in crowds. Loud noises made her flinch. Simple decisions, what to eat, what to wear, sometimes paralyzed her because she'd never had to make choices before. But there were victories too. She got a Virginia ID card with her real name. She opened a bank account. She learned to use a smartphone. though the technology bewildered her. She started reading contemporary literature, catching up on 18 years of culture she'd missed. The community rallied around her. Father Michael visited weekly, offering spiritual support without pressure. Jessica Martinez, Emily's childhood best friend, reached out tentatively and they began rebuilding their friendship. Local therapists donated their services. A lawyer helped Emily navigate the legal complexities of having been declared legally dead in 2015. In May, Emily visited her father's grave for the first time. Claire drove her to Meadowbrook Cemetery on a warm spring morning. David Rogers' headstone was simple: "Beloved husband and father, forever in our hearts." Emily knelt in the grass, tracing the letters of his name. "I'm sorry I wasn't here when you died. I'm sorry I missed saying goodbye." Claire knelt beside her. "He knew you loved him. Wherever he is, he knows you're home now." The investigation into Robert Mitchell's life continued. Detectives discovered he'd been diagnosed with a personality disorder in his 20s but had refused treatment. His journals revealed decades of obsessive fantasies about having a daughter, about rescuing a child from an imagined dangerous world. Emily had been the culmination of those delusions. In June, the house in Athens County was demolished. Emily attended the demolition, wanting to witness the destruction of her prison. As the walls came down, she felt a weight lift. "That place doesn't define me anymore," she told Claire. "I'm not the girl he kept in that house. I'm Emily Rogers. I'm your daughter. I'm a survivor and I'm free." By autumn, Emily had made remarkable progress. She'd passed her GED and enrolled in online community college courses, focusing on psychology. She wanted to help other survivors, to turn her trauma into purpose. She also reconnected with extended family. Her grandmother, now 92 and frail, wept when Emily visited. Cousins she didn't remember welcomed her back. The Rogers family, fractured by tragedy, was healing. On January 14, 2022, 19 years after her abduction, the community held a different kind of vigil. Instead of mourning Emily's absence, they celebrated her return. Hundreds gathered at the church, sharing stories and thanking God for the miracle that had seemed impossible. Emily stood at the front of the church, looking out at faces that were both strange and familiar. 19 years ago, someone tried to erase me. He tried to take my name, my family, my future, but he failed. Because love is stronger than evil, hope is stronger than despair, and truth always eventually comes to light. She looked at Claire, who sat in the front pew crying. "My mother taught me that. She never stopped loving me, never stopped hoping, never stopped searching. She proved that some bonds can't be broken no matter how much time passes or how far apart we are. I'm standing here today because she refused to give up." The congregation erupted in applause. People stood, some raising their hands in celebration, others embracing the person next to them. After the service, Claire and Emily walked home together through the cold January evening. The streets of Meadowbrook were quiet now, peaceful. "Mom," Emily said, using the word that still felt both new and ancient on her tongue. "Thank you. For everything. For never giving up. For waiting. For loving me, even when I didn't remember you." Claire stopped, turning to face her daughter. "Emily, I want you to understand something. The last 18 years were hell, but having you back makes every moment of that suffering worth it. You are worth everything." They stood under a streetlight, mother and daughter reunited, their breath visible in the cold air. "What happens now?" Emily asked. Claire smiled. "Now we live. We make new memories. We heal together. We move forward while honoring the past. We show the world that love really does conquer all." When they reached the blue house with white shutters, Claire lit the candle in Emily's window one final time, not as a beacon calling her home, but as a symbol that the waiting was over. The miracle had happened. Emily Rogers was home, and tomorrow they would begin the rest of their lives together.